is the Ninja Rob Podcast with Marco Perazzo and Tim Carpenter. The podcast for the true martial artist.
Let's have you go this time.
I'd like
start
to
it off.
Yeah?
Yeah, let's see how you do it.
Thank you and welcome to the Ninja Rob Podcast. This is Marco Perazzo with my friend and equal host. Like that? See that?
Very good.
I didn't put you down, lower you or anything. The podcast will be enough to have people think however they want to think about you. And you are?
I'm Tim Carpenter, owner of Hellfish Mixed Martial Arts.
We just like everybody to know we're back from the brink.
Show is almost canceled.
Almost canceled. Yeah. But we just, the fans have spoken.
I would have kept going.
It would have been a podcast of one.
We shouldn't say it would have been canceled. It would have been
lessened.
Would have been a little bit better.
What? Wow. All right. So here we are. Like, hopefully you guys heard Tim last week, and we have gotten more reviews and people giving us feedback on iTunes. So those
the
reviews,
best feedback you can give, rather than saying like, "Hey, love the podcast," is say that on iTunes.
Type it.
Say it to iTunes. Type it to iTunes.
In iTunes.
Don't send them an email, but go on the thing that says rate and review and
and give us and actually write something, because it's always nice to read this stuff that you write. Also, if you have a question for us, we will answer just about everything. We will sometimes cut out the names of the innocent that might be involved. But if you have something that's going on at your school and you don't know how to handle it and you want some real in-depth black belt advice, feel free to send it in. If you want to anonymize yourself, we'll respect that. Or if you want to use a service like Gorilla Mouth.
Is that a word? Anonymize?
Anonymize.
I like it. It's cool. It sounds really cool.
It's like a verb, right? So you anonymize yourself.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I never heard it before.
We've is it a patented?
You would trademark that. I don't think you'd patent it.
Yeah.
Patent is for an invention, I believe.
Okay. So I like what you added today. I think we should jump right into that.
Start with that one?
Yeah. Promoting students based on time, skill, and competition. Is the blue belt curse real?
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that I really struggle with as an instructor is promotions. When, how, what kind of metric to apply. You know, in traditional martial arts, it seems like it's almost a bit easier. Like you could do this form, you could do this kata, you have this amount of time in, and you get X belt, X stripe, so forth and so on. But the tradition of jiu-jitsu has always been there's no real kata, right? Is time in a real indicator of skill? Not really, right? Because you have a lot of time in and still not be very good. But also, I mean, time in is an indicator of work, right? Of stick-to-itiveness.
Well, so you got, what if a guy's time in, he's been in 10 years, twice a month. You know what I mean? And then you have another guy's been there 5 years, 5 days a week.
Right. And I think that guy probably should be getting promoted at a quicker pace. But, what are some of the things that you use to promote? Do you have like set dates?
No. I don't do anything. There's no real hard process really, or set of things that I guess there is a set of things that I look at, but it's all like I tell my students all the time, it's just purely individual. Like if you have the person has to be able to execute this kind of move, what if then you end up with a student that has no arms and he can't perform a rear naked choke? So is he never able to advance?
If you're applying that rule set to him, right?
So I'm thinking ahead of like,
what if you have the opposite and he has no legs
and he
has to do a triangle? Yeah.
He can't do a triangle, right? So you can't hold everybody to the same standard. You have to hold. I tell my students that everybody is based on not who you are compared to the people in the gym, or compared to me, or compared to what a world champion is. You're compared to who you are when you came in and where you are now.
Right.
That's your path from white belt to black belt is not a comparison between.
It's not anybody else's. This has not been mapped out already.
Right.
Right. Your path is truly your own.
Like anybody can get a black belt if they put in the work.
So
you might never be as good as a world champion brown belt.
A couple guys with their own podcast. Who knows?
Right. But you can become a black belt for who you are.
So a couple of weeks ago, we had talked, and out of one of the many arguments that we've probably gotten into, you said you didn't think that jiu-jitsu is for everyone.
Right.
But you just said that everyone can get a black belt. Like, so kind of, as they say, unpack that for me.
Okay. So everyone can do it. Not like everything else in life. Everyone has the ability to do pretty much everything.
Right.
Hardly anybody will do it.
That's true.
So,
yeah, we know that.
Like jiu-jitsu is not anyone can do jiu-jitsu, has the ability to.
But it's not for everyone.
Exactly. It's not for everybody. Not everybody will do it. Not everybody's going to stick with it. And like the amount of people that start to the amount of people that get black belts is,
it's ridiculous.
It's pathetic.
Just think about how many people you started with or I started with, right? That are no longer like people we've forgotten about from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It would be crazy if they stuck around. Like, how big of a sport would it be? It'd be insane.
Yeah. I mean, it would 10x the amount of people that are in it now, probably.
Probably, yeah.
But
so go ahead. So get a little bit more, if you could. I'm interested in this particular kind of individualized path that a student takes through their promotions.
So I tell my students this. I had promotions today, and I told the guys this. I was like, look, everybody's different. Everybody's on a different path. Some guys, they can only come in one day a week. They own their own business. They got wife and kids to deal with. They got all kinds of stuff going on in their lives, so they can only train once a week. It's probably going to take him a little bit longer to get to black belt. Doesn't mean he can't. It's just going to be stretched out. And then you have a kid that has no job, wants to dedicate his life to getting better jiu-jitsu and becoming a world champ, trains every day, competes all the time. That kid could be a black belt in 3 years.
Right. And I think like a lot of people you misspeak when they say this guy's got 6 years in, right? 7 years. Like the length of time is never really a good indicator. I don't think it's not a good indicator of skill, right? Because if we go back to, we've talked about in the past, Nicky Ryan, right? 3 years in that kid's shoes is like dog years, right? He's got probably 3 to 4 times the amount of mat time that most normal humans get. So like, oh, well, how's Nicky Ryan get so good?
He probably has more mat time than most black belts have.
Right. Yeah. No, it's probably right. So one of the metrics, not metrics, but so time, effort, skill, right? So when do you start looking at skill?
That's an individual thing too, because I have a couple guys that are like, they were pretty solid wrestlers. So when they come in, they already have more skill in grappling than most people at their level.
Right.
And they can be competitive. Like I have a couple guys that are like good enough wrestlers where they can give me a tough match. You know what I mean? They can make me work. Whereas like a normal white belt I could play around with, and these guys I have to sort of like get focused on them, So a guy like that, he's already at a high level, so it doesn't mean he's going to necessarily progress faster. It means I might hold him to a higher standard. Like, you need to learn more jiu-jitsu, not just wrestle people and be able to dominate people with like what you already know.
Right.
You need to learn how to. I try to tell all wrestlers first thing you should do is learn to be comfortable on your back, not just be a wrestler that's always just grinding forward on top.
Right, because that's kind of almost innately going to be there if they've been wrestling for that long, right?
Right, and you take like a world-class wrestler, you put him in a jiu-jitsu class, he's probably going to beat most people up to purple belt.
Maybe even up to black
belt. Yeah, depending
on the rule set, right?
And on the individual.
Yeah.
But
because like remember when they said when you were fighting in Bellator against, there are black belts and then there are black belts, right? Like that's even not like that a lot of times nonsense because you don't know. But anyway, like a high level world class or a highly decorated Division I wrestler, you give him a time set 6 minutes. All right, man.
It's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah.
Even for a really good jiu-jitsu guy, even for a black belt, it could be tough to beat. So everybody's different. And again, it's what's the goal of the person? If the person's goal is to be a good competitor in jiu-jitsu tournaments, he's going to be held to a higher standard than somebody that just trains twice a week for fun, and he's learning the techniques consistently. He's made improvements from never doing anything athletic in his life to being able to roll around with that same monster wrestler.
Right.
And they can have a good exchange and a good match. Even if he never beats that wrestler, it doesn't mean he's not going to get to the same belt level.
Do you promote like tranches of people, like big groups at a time, and then there's not promotions for a while? Do you do stripes outside of these promotions?
I do stripes outside of promotions. I try to do 2 promotions a year, a summer and a winter, where we do like belts. So today there was no belts, just all stripes today.
Now, do people know that they're getting stripes, or it's like, hey, promotions are today, show up, don't show up?
I tell people promotions are today. I just do 3-minute rounds for an hour and some change. I just make them. I start them in all kinds of bad positions. I try to make it like a more of a. My decision's already made. Like nobody gets promoted on what they did that day.
It's not if they quote unquote fail, right? There's not failing unless they quit.
I want to see people get to the point where they want to quit and keep going.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like kind of designed to make you like so tired that like at the end you're just barely hanging on. But I want to see that people keep going, and that's one of the things I judge people on is they're like sticking with it, not like. I got to sit out.
Right.
You know, which is good because I didn't have anybody do that today.
That's good. No, so I used to kind of do a similar thing. Like I said, I still have trouble. I don't know. Maybe it's just like some sense of humility of saying like, oh man, like how do I judge this guy?
Yeah,
right? You know,
and
like
it's easy at blue. It's easy like white belts, stripes, and blue belts. And then I think after blue, it becomes a little bit like, is he what I consider a tough purple belt?
Right. Or also then as guys go up through the ranks too, you usually become friendlier and friendlier, right? Because of the amount of time that you're spending together, learning, training. And then sometimes for me, what happens is the guys that I kind of appreciate the most as friends, it's the hardest for them to get promoted, right? Because I don't want people to think, all right, man, you know, he's boys with Marco, so he's getting that extra stripe or that extra belt or whatever. So I used to do kind of like a very similar, like, you know, not a belt test, but like a big ceremony. And it got unwieldy for me personally. And I think at the time I was doing them, it felt right. And we'd have a bunch of people come and it'd almost be like this giant celebration. And it felt almost a little false because I'd have a bunch of people at my school that weren't there any other time of the year unless it was time for so-and-so or this promotion or somebody else to get promoted. And I just made a kind of a shift in my thinking, saying I'm going to go back to how it felt like when we started. It was like, all right, you're in class, and you know what? All right, stand up, so-and-so, you're getting your black belt today, or you're getting your purple belt, or you're getting your brown belt. Because as much as I respect the idea of, hey, man, you know, show me your medal, you're getting tested in the fire, like the real important work is done on the regular, everyday basis. Not like you're saying, not on the day of the promotion, right? On every other day prior to that. And what I'm trying to get people to understand is you never know what might happen in this particular class when you show up on a random Monday, July 3rd of 2019. You might see one of your closest friends get their black belts.
Who's getting their black belt July 3rd?
No, nobody. I'm just using it as a random date, but just saying like that kind of thing. So for me, I used to appreciate what you did, and then it just kind of, my opinion on that changed. I still have sometimes difficulty expressing, like, all right, man, am I holding them back? Am I promoting people too soon? And much like you know, certain people have their reasons for getting promoted, right? You know, guy's 46, double hip replacement, really understands his own game. Is he somebody that's going to be playing, you know, spider guard or, you know, squid guard? No, but he gets to his spots that he's really good at. He's giving you as much trouble as anybody else in the world. Well, I don't know about in the world, but you know, like anybody else that's at that belt level. So
the good news is, because we're kind of our own boss, is we can do whatever we want. I like to do the promotion day because I like to see people tested in that way.
Right.
And they really seem to, and just giving them a stripe on a regular day, it almost feels like it wasn't earned as much as if they go through some fire and then at the end of it, they're given a little prize. You know, they seem to really enjoy that. So I like to sort of like, you know, crush them and then build them right back up with the reward. But at the same time, I'll give a stripe at any time. You know, sometimes like just at a random day, I see how everybody's been consistently improving. I'm like, all right, today I'm giving out some stripes to these guys. And then like I usually do belts on the promotion day, but I also don't have anything against, like, I'm not saying I wouldn't just on a random day be like, hey man, here's your black belt.
Here's a purple belt. Here's a black. Right. Yeah. So no, it's interesting because, you know, there's no kind of codified system or way. I know there's some instructors that you come to X amount of classes, you get a stripe. You come to X amount of more, you get your next stripe. And so like there's a way of just saying, okay, well, the class is the idea.
Showing up, just show up.
Just showing up's enough.
actually, that's something I always tell people. I was like, the only thing you got to do to get promoted is just show up.
Right.
But I'm not saying just like come in and scan your card and check in. I'm saying like show up, do the moves, do the work, be involved in the process of it. Not just don't just show up. You got to really show up.
But like promotions have always been that thing that could get kind of weird at schools too. And I'm just talking about outside of the instructor, right? Like where people build up a culture of he's got 2 stripes, I have 3. And, like people become envious of pieces of cloth tape, and like I really try to hammer home is like you could go buy this belt at the karate store.
Yeah.
Right. You can this tape that's on your belt. We got it a sport. It's like it's finger tape. It's nothing. It doesn't imbue you with any like you don't get this and something magical happens. It's a mile marker, right? It just shows you okay. I've gotten this far, and my destination is still off in the horizon.
Aim for recognition. Aim for accomplishment, not recognition.
Yeah, I think.
So that's what like the like you said. If somebody's like, well, when am I gonna get? When do you think I'll be ready for a blue belt? Here's my black belt. You can be a black belt now.
Like you go in and you train with the guy, and it's like, is he tough?
Do you want to have a different colored belt, or do you want to have the skills that come along with that? That should come along with that belt. That's
right. And what's a motivator to students? Right? Is the training, is the experience, is the feeling the motivator, or is the belt the motivator?
And that's kind of what I'm saying. Where it's not for everyone. Like the people that really stick with it, like people that are lifetime. There's plenty of people that have been doing it for a long time, and I've seen people quit at purple. I've seen people quit at brown.
That's great. I mean? Well, so let's go. We can jump right on the kind of what is it? The blue belt. Mm-hmm. What is it? What do you call it? The blue belt what?
Blue belt curse.
Blue belt curse, right? Where a lot of people get, blue belt's the big accomplishment in jiu-jitsu, right? It's almost like they used to equate it to, it's like getting your black belt in karate or any other system. You get your blue belt, and that's where we see as school owners and instructors, kind of probably the biggest drop off is when somebody gets their blue belt, they feel like they've made it. Maybe they don't need to put the extra work in to continue on to purple, brown, black.
Yeah, I wonder if it's that they feel they've made it, or they feel like, man, it was tough to get this. I don't know if I'll ever get to
how much harder is purple.
Right. I think that might have. I was thinking about that today, and I feel like that might have something to do with it. People see where it's such a far off goal. Like it took all this just to get to this blue belt, and this is the first belt, and then I'm so far away from where the instructor is or the higher belts in the class. Like I'm not gonna be like they might see that they're not that same level, but the only difference, with the exception of the psychos that get it in 3 years,
right?
Everybody that started was terrible. Everybody that's a black belt now was terrible when they started, pretty much. You know what I mean? So, and it compounds. Like you're learning from people that have been through it. You're gonna gain their knowledge plus all the knowledge that you are gonna gain. It's like you double up.
Right. Just think of all the mistakes you made that now your students don't make.
Right. That I can say like, don't do this because I used to do this, and now this is why it works better.
Right.
So it should be a process, but again, don't be after the belt. Be after the skills. The skill,
the experience, what it does for you, and don't look at the person next to you with envy. Right, like look for them for inspiration if they're higher ranked than you, right? Like, okay, that person should inspire you to want to be better, not be like, like a quote unquote hater is like, oh, why does he have a stripe? Like, all right, man, what do I got to do to gain those skills and that feeling? Or, all right, man, that's my boy, that's my friend. I should be happy that he's gotten or she's gotten that accolades. Like I tell the kids, do you want to be taller by standing on top of each other? Or do you want to be taller because we've lifted each other up? Right, clearly because we lifted each other up. I'd rather just
be taller on my own.
I'd just rather be 6'2". Like yeah.
But then I would say those are the people that, when I say jiu-jitsu is not for everyone, jiu-jitsu is not for those people. Right. If that's what's going to limit them or make them quit, because like, they promoted this other guy, I used to destroy him in training, but he got his blue belt before me.
Right.
So it's like, that guy's not cut out for it,
So belts should never be the drive. Like if we had a big takeaway, regardless, promotions or not, the belt isn't the carrot.
No,
right?
and
jiu-jitsu is the carrot.
Pretty much all the
martial arts,
the real jiu-jitsu guys, and the quality school owners, and everybody I know that's been in it for a long time, belts have meant pretty much they're proud of being a black belt, but they were never in it to get a blue belt or a purple belt. It was like it was an honor to get a blue belt or a purple belt, not like I want that. I deserve it. It was just like
or you're right,
I got my purple belt. I was happy about it.
There was no entitlement, right? Like
No,
I'm
not at
entitled to this belt,
Right.
or I should, like happened to me that one time. I'm entitled to it in a certain way,
Right.
right? You know, so
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. That's good.
no, it was good. I think if people can pull away something from there is like, you know, make sure if you're just chasing the belt, I mean, you could chase it, but hopefully at some point you really start embodying what the martial arts are for you, if it's Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu or MMA.
If you're chasing about, just quit. That's
All right. So we're not, oh man. Bro, that video you sent me was nuts.
Yeah, right.
So there's a video floating around of it. So I did a little, I dug around.
Chris Moriarty's stuff about it?
No, but
That's where I first saw it.
So I did a little digging and research. So there's a video floating around of an instructor in Ecuador.
This guy?
Yes. Yeah, this is the video that you sent me, right? Instructor in Ecuador, I believe him to be Brazilian, with one of his students upset at him because he had gotten put in a lockdown position. So I learned that move that he does to his student from Todd Margolis.
Mm-hmm.
He showed it before. We called it like squatting in a catcher's kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? And completely a crazy painful move,
Yeah.
right? It's like a knee compression.
It's like a double knee compression and an ankle lock on both.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
So this guy he does like kind of a shitty move to his instructor, and we'll post a link to the video on YouTube and all that other stuff. And his instructor shows the group of students like, hey, this is why you don't do this move. Basically, what he's saying makes the guy scream in pain. Like looks like he might have been like Juan, you know, screaming, pop knees, and then smacks him in the stomach and smacks him in the face and says, "Defend it." Right? Crazy. And people in the, like, there was a big article where it's like, man, this guy's crazy. What's he doing?
Abusing students.
Abusing a student. So I do a little digging. I see that it happened in Ecuador. That student still trains at that school and defends his instructor's actions.
Yeah, I actually read, so Chris Moriarty is one of the really good American black belts.
I think he's a doctor now.
Yeah, he's the one that posted that, and he contacted the guy because they're both from Alliance.
Okay.
And the guy wrote him back and was like, "Yeah, that kid was he's a student of mine. He's a good friend. He's like, it was voluntary. It didn't look violent. It looked pretty.
Man, it looked crazy violent. Yeah.
So I don't know if he was, you know, there can be a sort of cultish mentality where people will take abuse.
Yeah. I've heard of one of the, shall remain nameless, but like one of the most respected instructors in the world. If he's teaching and you're not doing exactly what he wants you to do, he'll just smack you right in the middle of teaching. Yeah.
That's pretty old school.
Yeah.
Is it American?
No.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that kind of stuff wouldn't
But
fly.
not from South America either.
Right. But it wouldn't fly in America, but in some
Oh,
other
that's happened in America.
I'm sure it has,
Yeah.
but it doesn't usually
Right.
fly in America. You know what I mean? Like that would, but in other cultures, I think.
Dude, the Reddit went nuts with this. I saw it on Reddit once you sent it to me, and it almost felt like the kid that had this move done to him, it's screaming in pain, where it looked like he might have blew out both of his knees. It was like a battered wife.
Yeah.
Next to his, you know what I'm saying, like abusive husband who happens to be his jiu-jitsu instructor, and he's like, "Oh no, we're still cool. He's my friend. This, that, and the other." Man, I don't know if I missed some context of that video, but I get up and I hit that guy with a dumbbell if he does that to me. You know, like that's just not cool. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not my style either. But I don't like the lockdown either. But
have you ever done that to somebody that's done the lockdown to you? And
no.
Then
I've
made him
never-
scream in pain, then open hand smacked him twice.
Not that I can recall. It might have happened, but I might have blocked it out. But I don't think I've ever done that.
Yeah, so it's bad. Like whatever context it was in, I don't agree. I don't think it should.
But I think the main lesson is
don't do lockdown.
Yeah, don't do the lockdown.
Don't do lockdown. And if you're going to do lockdown, don't let your instructor demonstrate the defense to the lockdown.
Because that defense, like, in all fairness to the lockdown position, you kind of have to just sit there to let him do that. Like, I don't think that's going to work on it's not going to happen to Eddie Bravo when he gets you in the lockdown and starts sweeping you.
Right, yeah. If you're keeping an active
Like,
lockdown position, yeah.
If you're good at the lockdown, you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
it's
It's only when your instructor asks if he could demo the counter you
Right.
you're having problems with it. But yeah, so I don't care what anybody says. The instructor from Alliance, whatever, douche move. Anywhere that video pops up, anywhere that guy might be brought up on charges of assault.
yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. So moving on to the questions, we are not chock full of questions from quantity, but the quality.
Good quality.
Good qualities. I will read the first one from our dear friend, Nedson, or as we like to call him, NJ, Black Belt from Balance Studios. He goes, "Morning, my ninjas. What are the top 5 cities to train BJJ in the USA? You're a ninja, Nedson." I don't think he's a ninja, but I think he might be going off the Ninja Rob thing. So, Tim, what would do you have a top 5?
Top 5. I'll give them to you right now. Very easy.
Bridgeport,
PA. Chalfont, PA.
Maple Shade.
Distant third. Very distant third.
Go ahead.
Maple Shade, New Jersey.
All right. Fourth.
Fourth, Philadelphia.
Okay.
Fifth would be
New York City.
New York City.
All right.
Oh wait, I forgot LA and San Diego.
Yeah. So they're coming in.
That's my joke, but
honorable mentions.
The top I would say.
So I think you get to go general area, don't you? Like, because city might be.
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
to say
for
like
sure.
San Diego
For sure.
area.
I would say like LA, San Diego are probably the top in the U.S.
Did you
And
separate them?
we're just talking. I would separate LA
Okay,
and San Diego.
all right.
Yeah. So LA, San Diego, and then I would say New York, Philly, Miami. Yeah, DC. And then it's also a matter of like, what is? Do you mean by where the best competitors are in the United States?
So then you'd have to go.
Or do you mean by where the
LA,
best?
San Diego, New York, right? You'd have to go top 3.
Yeah,
Then DC,
DC. Yeah,
and then everybody else. Honestly,
right. But then what I'm more thinking is like, where are the best sort of like jiu-jitsu cultures
or instructors too, right?
and instructors. But I would
a big
say
part of culture.
Philly's up there because Philly's got a really strong jiu-jitsu community. And I think you can tell that, like, I think the best person to ask this would probably be Seth from Fight to Win.
Okay.
You know what I mean? He would be able to tell you where the best cities are for jiu-jitsu because he'd be like, where are the crowds the best? Who shows up the most?
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that would be interesting.
And I think Philadelphia, I don't know as much about Washington, D.C., maybe less, but like Philadelphia is a very Brazilian jiu-jitsu culture here, right? Like New York, more Brazilian jiu-jitsu culture. LA, more Brazilian jiu-jitsu culture. San Diego, same thing. Where Philadelphia, with Steve Maxwell and Maxercise, the Miglerese brothers, and then everyone else that kind of came after them, there's really not a big set of Brazilian schools here like you have in those other cities that you talked about. So I think that's one thing that separates Philly, I think, from a lot of other the greater Philadelphia area includes Chalfont and Maple Shade,
Bridgeport. Don't forget Bridgeport.
Sorry, Bridgeport as well. Delran.
Yeah. So, L.A., San Diego, Philly, New York, D.C.
I would probably
and Miami if you want to.
So it depends on what viewpoint you want to take with it, right? Like, so if you're a student, right, a non-competitive guy, where would you want to go first, right? Like if you're just like a jiu-jitsu dude that wants to train
mixed martial arts,
besides our respective schools, right? Probably everybody wants to go because there's kind of it's almost like a Bermuda Triangle in New York City of schools that are super close to each other that have some of the most well-respected instructors going. Marcelo Garcia, John Donaher, Renzo Gracie, the Meow Brothers, Unity, you know, like, and I think those schools are blocks from each other, right? So there's an epicenter right there where if you're just like a jiu-jitsu visitor, you could go there, and then all the other schools that are outside of that, like, you know, Fabio Clemente and Josh Griffiths and, you know, all that other stuff. So I think if you're looking at it from that standpoint, New York City might be the top place for a student who's maybe not a great competitor, but wants to kind of go somewhere and see a variety of places that he could even just walk to one day and walk to the next and walk to the next, right? You know, so for me, it'd be New York, San Diego, LA. I would go like 2 and 2A, because they're probably equally as good with jiu-jitsu and also equally as good as with competitors and schools. And then, you know, Philly, Washington, then South Florida, probably because you got American Top Team. So we got to look, are we looking at MMA? Because then if we're just thinking MMA too, South Florida probably jumps up a little bit more because of Top Team and, you know, the MMA teams.
That's interesting. Like you'd say New York for jiu-jitsu tourism.
I think so.
LA for jiu-jitsu history in the United States.
Yeah.
San Diego for jiu-jitsu competition.
And like the new jiu-jitsu too, right?
And then you got Philly, if you don't like Brazilian people.
If
you're not into Brazil,
if you like the
Brazilian
Liberty
culture.
Bell,
right,
and everything that Philly brings to you,
right,
yeah, and cheesesteaks.
cheesesteaks.
So, yeah, and that's so there's probably like 17 different permutations of that answer.
Well, no matter how you did it, we kind of all came to. It was always New York, San Diego, L.A., Philly,
and
Miami,
the South
or
Florida was
DC.
kind of, yeah. So
We'll put DC and Miami together.
Okay.
They're both south.
all right, Tim, you're up. Next question.
Is there? This is from anonymous who anonymized himself.
Yes, he used Gorilla Mail.
Is there a BJJ equivalent to being a counter striker in boxing, MMA, etc.?
I would say yes, there is.
Yes.
There's the
Next question.
Yes, to answer your question, there is. You can refer to Huron or Henner. They would call it keeping it playful. Going back even further with Elio Gracie, just wait till your opponent makes a mistake and capitalize on the mistake, as opposed to forcing the action. I guess is what is how I view this question.
Yeah, so that's this, and being a counter striker in jiu-jitsu is not going to lead to very much competitive success usually if your goal is competition. It's a good skill to have to be able to counter people's moves, to have attacks off of people's attacks. But it wouldn't be good to sort of base your style around, and I can't think of any situation where it would be a good idea, whether you're thinking self-defense, MMA, jiu-jitsu competition,
Kickboxing, Muay Thai.
Counter strikers can be very effective. I'm just thinking purely in grappling. I don't think that it would be a good idea to become a counter fighter. It's better to be proactive.
Right. I think you can have certain parts of your game in grappling that could be countering. Like you could be a counter wrestler, right? Where a lot of your takedowns develop off of your opponent's shot or your opponent's failed shot or your defense, right?
Right.
But I don't think getting out of arm locks is what you should be trying to do every time, or letting yourself get put in a triangle and stack out to escape that triangle.
But it's a great skill to have.
For sure.
It's an essential skill to have, but not, I don't know if, I wouldn't ever recommend you make that the basis of your training, but like I said, it's a necessary skill to develop.
Yeah, but
and a guy like Eduardo Tellez was the guy that comes to mind with this question, because he had the turtle guard, which is, again, one of them, like that and seated guard are probably the most ineffective for anything other than sport jiu-jitsu.
Fighting, right?
Yeah. But they're extremely effective in training and competitive jiu-jitsu, So.
Yeah, so you can do it, like Tim's saying, we don't recommend making it the basis of all of your jiu-jitsu, but there will be times where you have to put yourself in a place where defense is the utmost importance, and you're going to have to counter to get out, and that's the only way you'll be able to get out or go from an inferior position to a superior position. But having that be the basis or everything that you do is nonsense. Just because you could sit there for 5 minutes and not get submitted is no feather in your cap.
Right.
All right, I'll read the next one. What was the closest any of you guys got to quitting jiu-jitsu or martial arts in general? What was your mindset during that time? How did you come back from it? Dan Lakitas, Hellfish Blue Belt. Did I pronounce that right? Loikits. Dan Loikits. So for me, the closest I ever came to quitting was after initially dislocating my right shoulder, having to have a surgery on it, and the shoulder not healing correctly and still coming out. And I was like, I don't know if I can continue dealing with this. Sitting in the locker room at Maxercise, having just put my shoulder that had not come out completely, but come out a little bit back into place, and crying. Like, I don't know if I can keep doing this.
Yeah.
Right. Like putting my shoulder back in, dealing with this injury. And that, that's the one time in my jiu-jitsu career that I was like, I can't handle this. This injury's too much. I don't know if I can keep doing this, and it keeps coming out and it's not getting better. And it wasn't because of jiu-jitsu, it was because my body was just not responding to the therapy and the surgery. So that for me was the closest I ever got.
Never even crossed my mind. I mean, I don't like. I know that this is something a lot of people deal with. Like, things come up in their lives where they might get sidetracked from it.
Right.
And, but I've never, from like, I would even say before I started, this is like all I ever wanted to do. Like
Right.
once I saw like jujitsu, I was like, that's all I want to do.
Right.
And I've been out for almost a year at a time for both arms, both my biceps. But all I thought about was getting back to training.
So those pretty severe injuries were well into your career, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I would say when I was a purple belt, there was a time in my life where I didn't train very much. So it was like when I was in my early 20s, I guess, and I was working, going to school, trying to figure out what I do, and I had a girlfriend. And that was like the worst period of my life.
Right. But
it wasn't like I wanted to. I just kind of got sidetracked by other stuff.
you
know what I
were
mean?
down. You weren't thinking of quitting though.
No, it was never a thought of quitting. I
Right.
was still training once, twice a week.
Right.
Every.
Yeah.
You know.
For me, it wasn't like I lost the love. It was like I don't know if my arm is going to stay attached. Like I can't do this. Come here every time and then have to put my shoulder back into place. Like, and having just had surgery, I was like, well, what was the sense of the surgery?
Yeah, I know some very good guys that even own schools that kind of at certain points in their life were like, I don't really want to do it. Like they just kind of lost their interest in it for a while.
Right.
But I think they still stuck with it, even just a little bit.
Right.
Kept their foot in the door.
That's
And,
crazy that you know like you thankfully you never been through something where it made you want to quit or an injury. Like for me it's that one singular time. Like I wish I knew the date of it because it was like one time sitting in the locker room at my exercise, like my head in my hands, like how the fuck can I continue doing this if my shoulder won't stay in its socket? You know? But other than that, there's never really been like getting beat up was never a big deal.
Right.
Not being really good was never a big deal. You know, like whatever.
Yeah, I know that I'm going to have some catastrophic injuries in the future.
One can only hope.
Like I know something else is going to rip. I'll probably be out for a year at some point, you know. But it's worth it.
Yeah. So yes, we
He actually asked another question.
go ahead.
But I'm going to save it for next week because that question was great.
Okay.
I'm excited about that one.
All right, you want to read this next one though?
Yeah. This is from.
Very wordy.
Do I read? Yeah, I know. Do I read the name first or do I read the email
It's up,
first?
whatever.
This is from Carlos Rodriguez,
Right.
NJMA black belt, currently enjoying retirement in the Caribbean. As you know, my twin girls used to train BJJ with you, meaning Marco, Bill Bell, and Hughes. As a parent who also trains, I prefer not to be a primary instructor to them. I want them to enjoy BJJ and see me as the parent and not their BJJ instructor. What are your thoughts of wearing these two hats? I know, Tim, you don't have kids, but would love to hear your opinion if Marco allows you mic time. Also, when are you planning to have kids with your new wife?
Man, here comes that people bringing up that goalie again.
People really want me to dump loads on my wife.
And we'd like to be classy and say impregnate her.
Shoot loads. Sorry.
Yeah. As they would say, as Charlemagne the God would say,
Splash off.
shoot up the club. So
Yeah, we're working on it. Actually, I might do that tonight,
God bless you.
right after the podcast.
Hey, shoot me a text. Let me know how it goes.
All right. We'll discuss it next week. Send us another question.
No wonder why your wife doesn't want to listen to this podcast.
But you go first.
So, I have 3 kids. Only one of them does jiu-jitsu right now, and it's my daughter, and it's really important to me that she does it. She was doing it with Phil and Rick for a while, and I started my class so that I can have her be my student. It's one of the hardest things that I do is having her in class because clearly the one student that I love the most out of all the students in my class is my daughter, right? Like it's just the genetic connection, right? And also, you know, 'cause I'm with her every day. But also having the professionalism and care for her and the rest of the students to not treat her any differently, almost sometimes be harder on her than I am on some of the other kids. So there's a fine line that you have to kind of straddle when your child, I believe, when your child is in class, because you're serving a few masters. You want your child to love the art, but you also don't want them to say, "Hey, Dad," like when she's in class, sir.
Yeah.
So I'm not daddy, right? And she's got, okay, yes, sir, no, sir. Oh, so
Should make her call you sir at home too.
I try to, but then she'll say, "We're not in class, Daddy." So so we've been able to compartmentalize that. I started her off at home. Anytime that she wanted a treat, right? I go, "Okay, come on, let's do some jujitsu." All right, and then we just do some like basic self-defense, couple moves. All right, now you could go get your treat. So I just made it part of everyday life, and I don't have a hard time with her being my students because we've been able to compartmentalize the idea. Like she sees when we're in class and when I have my gi on, I'm her jiu-jitsu instructor that cares for her as a jiu-jitsu student. And then when I don't have my gi on, I'm her daddy who loves her as a daddy. And I want to make sure that she understands that and she's getting good at jiu-jitsu, but also she's having fun with it, right? Because right now she's 6 and I want her to want to come to the school. Like the days that she can't come, I want her to almost feel like she's disappointed that she couldn't go. So yeah, it's definitely a fine line, but if you straddle it correctly and you approach it well at home and you can compartmentalize it, I think you can have your child in the class as long as you don't play favorites and you could be as fair as you could be. I mean, Devin's in my class, so he can either attest or call up bullshit on me.
It's true. He's harder on her.
What are your thoughts on it, Tim?
So I don't have kids, but when I do have kids, my plan is to kind of do the same thing. I'm not gonna force them to do class, but I don't see how they won't want to do it. Like they're gonna be at the gym.
Right, you see,
what I mean?
my daughter comes to hang out on
Yeah,
Sundays
that's what I
just
want.
to play.
I want the gym to be a fun place for the kid, and I also want my gym is filled with cool people, so I want to keep I want my children to see what sort of a community should be like, how everybody's
works together.
Everybody has fun.
Right.
We help each other out.
Daddy's friends with Devin. He's friends with this person. Yeah.
I think that's important. And then when it comes to teaching, I wouldn't say you need to be their instructor, but I think they should know that you're the authority on jiu-jitsu. You know, you might not have to teach them in class. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say make sure they know that you're the authority on jiu-jitsu. Even if you don't want to teach, I mean, do they want him to teach class at the school?
I'm not sure what he's doing, but I don't think he wants to.
And then again, but if the kids are asking you to show them jiu-jitsu, I think you should embrace it. I'm not sure, but my plan is to just have them. The gym is part of their life. It's not going to be separate from. It's not going to be a place that they have to go to. It's going to be a place that they want to go to.
Right.
It's going to be like home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
that's kind of like the way your daughter and Steve's kids are on Sundays. Like they're there being kids. And at the end of once the mat clears, they start doing jiu-jitsu with each other.
Yeah, that's the cool part. Yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah.
And I have a kids class in my place, and when the kids come in early, some kids are like running around playing tag, and a couple kids are doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, we see the same thing. Yeah. Like especially his son's really good at grabbing kids and kind of like teaching them stuff and showing them things.
Yeah.
And that's really like ultimately that's what you want to see, right? Like especially for a 12-year-old that he's got leadership skills.
And that's one of the reasons I like jiu-jitsu so much, because you get to basically play around
with your friends
all day with your friends. Yeah. You get to be very mature.
Yeah, Carlos. So I think you gotta straddle the line. If you don't want to teach them, you shouldn't. But like Tim's saying, I think you need to establish yourself as the authority, not just in their life, but their authority in jiu-jitsu. Good question. All right. Now, this comes from Chris Hill. He's new to NJMA. He's a 10th Planet Blue Belt. He's the owner of Primal Nutrition on Route 38. They just opened up new small business. Super cool dude. Getting him to train in the gi more. He was always eschewed the gi. So just got to tell him it's not a big deal. Train with the gi, train without. Shouldn't be that different. But he goes, it's really just set up as this is not really a question, but just a bunch of statements that I think he wants some insight on. Off days, training while injured, flow rolls, when to take time off, right? So off days, when should you take off days? How do you do that for yourself, Tim?
I take off days when I'm bad at it, but
because you train for a guy of your age, size, and stature, you train an awful lot. Like live.
Yeah, I train 6-7 days a week, but I have different modes of training. Like I have my really hard training, I would say is Fridays, Sundays, and then So I train with my students to varying degrees. I have the luxury where I can pick who I want to roll with. So it's
Right.
like I have students. All right, I'm gonna train hard today. I'm gonna pick some students. I'm gonna train easier today. I train with like some smaller students or more beginner students. So that's how you can train every day if you train smart. But a lot of people have this thing of like going hard all the time every day, and you're just gonna burn yourself out.
Yeah, you can't be in fifth gear. Like a car doesn't just start in fifth gears. You got to get through
Right.
first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, right?
I'm big on you should definitely train when you're injured, as long as your training doesn't aggravate the injury. So anything you can do.
So what difference between injury and hurt, right? Like you should definitely train when you're hurt.
Even if you're injured. I mean, even if you have an injury, like if let's say you tear your bicep and you can like lock your arm in place
Okay.
and use the rest of your body to do stuff.
You should.
You should.
Okay.
And like I said, anything that doesn't aggravate the injury and make it worse, you should do, because I think that will help you heal. Like the more your body moves, the
So
more
when I
it's gonna heal.
dislocated the shoulder, Charles Williams was a great friend to me as a blue belt. Would just grab me. He says, "Tuck your arm in your belt.
Yeah.
We're gonna drill triangles."
Yeah.
He goes, "Don't just sit here watch class."
Yeah.
He
that's
goes,
good.
make yourself useful."
And that's the other thing. I tell people when they get injured, I'm like, just come in and watch. And as soon as you can get yourself on the mat and it doesn't kill you to do it, start doing it.
Right.
Anything that doesn't hurt is going to help.
Be smart about the people you train with.
Be
when
smart
you're
about the
injured.
people you train with. Flow rolling is something that I think people should do more. And flow rolling sounds kind of gay. So you can,
When you say gay, do you mean happy?
no, I mean like gay, and I don't mean homosexual either. I mean gay is in like the juvenile sense of like when you think something's bad, you say it's gay.
Gotcha.
Very immature way of using the word gay. I don't mean it to disparage any homosexuals or happy people.
Gotcha. Just want to make sure because we're accepting of everybody.
Yeah, for sure. So flow rolls, if you just think of it as more active drilling.
Right, and
You know?
and you've pointed that out in the past. Like flow rolling is not just moving around.
It's not
lightly.
flopping around.
Right. It's going for stuff, letting your partner do a hitchhiker escape out, seeing where your next
It's
opportunity
a
is.
perfect time to work your counters. So when you're flow rolling, you're not concerned with winning. You're concerned with like you let the guy pass your guard and then see where you can go from there.
So I
you
tell
let
my
the guy
student-
get your arm, see how you get out. You know?
It's what we would consider spider sensing, right? Like the
good.
perceptual awareness, right? So if you could do it in a flow roll, then you can start taking that skill up into a live roll and then into competition if competition is something you want to do.
Yeah, it's something me and Rick Migleris used to do this all the time. Like we would pretty much always like that would be our first.
I
how we
judge
start
a
off.
guy, usually somebody, if I think they're really good at jiu-jitsu, it'll be based upon if they can do this.
That'd be a good way to sort of like that's a great metric to use for promotions, I think.
I don't know, as a piece of,
Higher-
of other
yeah,
metrics.
yeah, for sure.
For somebody that can kind of get that idea that, hey, we're gonna flow roll right now.
If you can't do it slow and controlled, then you're not good at it.
Right.
Like that's like a simple way to think of a technique. If you have to jump on it and you have to use speed and strength to finish it,
right,
then
you
you're
shouldn't
not
have to crank everything.
you're
to
not
make
good
work.
at it.
Right.
like if you can apply it in a flow roll and see the opportunity to catch it and how to control it in a slower scenario, then you really understand the technique.
Right.
And then take time off when ideally you take time off before you're super overtrained. I usually wait till I'm
Do you believe in overtraining?
for sure.
Yeah. So you're not CT Fletcher?
I would say CT Fletcher might be overtrained at this point. It's like
His whole body's about
does he
ready
need
to
like
go.
a heart
Yeah,
transplant.
yeah. Fuck that. So I believe in off days. I think that you should, especially now. I would actually even take some periods of time off from live training from after Christmas to like 2 or 3 weeks just to kind of like, all right, this is my little off season where I'm not going to train. But I've become really good at, especially because I really like teaching and I teach a decent amount. I don't teach a ton of classes. Like I think, who was telling me? Was it Kenny Brock teaches like
It's like 30, 40 classes.
30, 40 classes. Yeah, that's insane. But the amount of classes that I teach a week, I can now be a lot pickier with how I train, when I train, with who I train. And much like you, I have certain days that I will go hard and other days where I'll pick students or other days where I just want to sit there and watch people train and give them tips and advice. So off days, clearly, if you think coming in to train at any point, just taking a class is going to injure you, then you should stay home. But I doubt any class is going to injure you, right? But if you're that tired or you're that overworked, then take a night off.
You can tell, like the way I can tell when I'm overtrained is like sort of overall soreness in my body, but most importantly, it's like my reaction time gets like severely affected.
I know Steve Young, our PT buddy, would say that if you take your resting heart rate consistently in the morning and it is elevated, it's usually a good indicator that you're overtrained.
Yeah.
You know, so that might be another thing to do is track your.
It's a lot of work and math to do, though.
Well, I mean, but it might be a good metric to use.
And Chris is a big guy, so I would recommend that he, when you start feeling overtrained a little bit, roll with little people, roll with smaller women,
and roll lightly.
And roll well. That's the thing is like when you roll with someone much smaller than you should be rolling somewhat lighter.
But his style, I think, because of the 10th planet influence, is very dynamic in some instances and almost overly explosive to jump into stuff. So that could, as you get older, and he's 36 or 37, that could be reasons why you might be feeling a little bit more injured because the techniques are a little bit more athletic than other jiu-jitsu techniques might ask you to be. Training while injured, I usually say training while hurt is never bad. Right. Training while injured, as long as how Tim has kind of explained it, is the right way to go, where you make sure that you're not re-injuring the injury, then you should do what you can do. Flow rolls or active perceptual awareness drills, as we could coin the phrase now. We'll do like a BJJ Fanatics. Perceptual awareness drills with Tim Carpenter and Marco Perazzo. Yes, flow rolling is super important, but not if you're just moving around and not being thoughtful about it. Like, be in the moment, see what's going on, see what your opponent's doing. It really is a live give and take to improve your technique.
Yeah, if you watch wrestlers train, like when they're sort of warming up and drilling, it's super active. It's a hard
I watched
workout.
like John Smith on him. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I think a lot of jiu-jitsu training should look. And that's how you can train a lot, because those guys they're not constantly tensing their muscles and getting hurt and strained.
Yeah, so and when to take time off, when you need it. I mean, your body will let you know. Like if you're feeling overburdened or overworked, take some time off. All right.
Is that my next one?
Yeah.
All right, this is a two-parter. A twofer. What are your thoughts on combat jiu-jitsu in competition? So I guess he's talking about the slap jiu-jitsu.
Slap jits.
Slap jits. What submission should people avoid so they don't get their nose slapped off their face? Wait, hold on. Let me do that again. What submission should people avoid so they don't get their nose slapped off their face? And then the more important question, what's the most effective training BJJ method for people in the military who may encounter enemy combatants where the goal is ending a threat, not just subduing them? This is from Morpheus again.
Yeah, I know. Our buddy's dog really got access to a computer. So what are your thoughts on, I don't know, man. I think combat jiu-jitsu is kind of weird.
Stupid.
Yeah. I don't get the whole slap jits thing. It's like, just do amateur MMA.
I'll tell you one of the issues I have with I don't know if it's the 10th planet system, but Eddie Bravo has always been big on like he does no gi, but he wears gi pants. So it's like wants
to be different.
Well, no, you want the benefit of the friction you get from the gi pants without what you consider to be the detrimental effect of somebody holding you onto your upper body with the gi. So it's like it's kind of like it's a sneaky way of doing what you want to somebody and like limiting their ability and increasing your ability in a cheap way. And it's the same thing with combat jiu-jitsu. It's like if you want to know if your jiu-jitsu works in a fight, you go fight. Train with MMA gloves on.
Right.
And if you're really scared,
have somebody throw punches at you from the feet, right? Because
slapping can be a good tool to introduce people to what it's like when somebody's trying to hit you.
Right.
It's a good tool. But as far as making it a competition, it's kind of silly. And
I think it's a good tool. Sorry, I do mean to cut you off, but I don't want to be rude about it. Is that it's a good and not crazy aggressive way of introducing it to beginner students, right? Where like balling up a fist, some people get weird about it, and it gets like they viscerally start getting angry when they ball up a fist. But people can play smack, right? It's tough to play punch.
I don't understand you can definitely do damage with slaps.
Yeah.
But again, at the combat jiu-jitsu, it's just you can't slap when you're on the feet. You have to wait till you're on the ground to slap. But I think you do see a lot less leg locks when there's slaps involved.
I really haven't watched enough of it.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it was kind of cool originally when it was like some jiu-jitsu people can get some bigger recognition in the jiu-jitsu world. Maybe they're not good enough to be an ADCC. Maybe they're not good enough to win the worlds. But now with organizations like Fight to Win and like these other ones that are doing these local circuits where now a good jiu-jitsu guy can get some recognition but not have to be a great jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't really see the benefit of slap jits unless you just don't want to be really good at MMA fighting. You just want to be good at ground fighting.
Right.
Then that just doesn't, it doesn't, two plus two don't make four with this one. Like I don't get it. Like if you're going to get into MMA, you should do jiu-jitsu, you should do amateur MMA, then you work your way up. I don't see the progression pulling you through combat jiu-jitsu. I don't think that's going to help prepare you to be a better MMA fighter.
Because even in combat jiu-jitsu, I've seen some of it, and it's still not, it's not realistic to have somebody slapping you.
So if one of your students said to you, hey, Mr. Tim, I can do a slap jits fight coming up, or I could do an amateur kickboxing fight. I eventually want to be a pro MMA fighter. Which one would you tell them to do?
Kickboxing.
Okay.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So and that really tells you, and we're like dyed-in-the-wool jiu-jitsu guys, I would say the same thing.
Yeah.
Go out there and kick a amateur kickboxing match will get you more prepared for an MMA fight than a slap jits match.
Yeah. The submissions people need to avoid so they don't get their nose slapped off. Anything where your opponent is on top of you and both your arms and legs are committed to doing something else. So most leg locks, I think, will get you slapped a lot.
Right.
Especially in a thing with it's a bunch of submission only guys that understand leg locks.
I remember watching you punch the crap out of some guy's head when he was trying to knee bar you in sparring.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I think not that I would say leg locks aren't good. I'm just saying that I think they're more dangerous when people can hit you.
Right.
Because your upper and lower body are both committed to his legs.
Yeah, no real offense to Eddie Bravo in a sense like that. I like when people try to take things in a new direction, but I don't get this direction that he's taking it in.
Yeah.
All right. So the second part of the question is, what's the most effective training BJJ method for people in the military who may encounter enemy combatants where the goal is ending a threat, not just subduing them? Well, this would take into consideration that every piece of firearm and utility that they have is no longer available to them. Right? They don't have a gun, they don't have a knife.
They have those things on them, but somebody attacks them without that first.
Right.
So I think, and this is something like military and cops should engage in, is doing jiu-jitsu and grappling with all their equipment on, because it changes a lot. They wear bulletproof vests that limit movement. They wear belts that limit movement.
Right,
They limit your ability to sort of move on the ground.
Throwing kicks is probably really difficult with that kind of stuff on.
They should train in their gear, and they should train with either sort of shock knives or some sort of like knife implement, or have somebody try to, pull a knife out at a certain point, where they have to understand, like you can hold somebody in a triangle, but if they pull a knife out and start
stabbing you in the rib
sticking it
cage.
up your taint, then you're going to be in trouble.
Call that Saturday night. So I agree with Tim. I think you have to train with your gear, and you have to train somewhat realistically. The issue is that the more realistic your training gets, the closer you get to injury.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that there's a fine line that you have to run, and I think that doubles back to the question about police officers in training.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was talking to a couple cops at my school. They go, one of the big problems that the districts or the police offices have is that their sergeants and their bosses don't want them to get hurt, and they don't want to be responsible for that injury, because then guys went, all right, man, I tore my ACL. I'm going to retire now on 80% pension. It's like hitting a home run.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is to that.
Yeah. So I think part of it is training in your gear, training as hard as you could train, as realistically as you can, to see what to start taking away the techniques that don't work. Right. The roundhouse kick to the face probably not working in a full combat gear.
Yeah. It goes like, it's the same thing for no matter what you're getting ready for. You need to just adjust your training. So if you're getting ready for like fighting for your life, you need to throw in scenarios like start, grappling with one guy, and then he pulls out a shock knife, and then another guy comes up behind you and grabs your legs.
Have you ever been shocked with a shock knife?
I haven't been shocked. I've been shocked with like stun guns while I was grappling with people.
Okay.
But I've never been used a shock knife.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah,
I think
kinda
they're
just-
very valuable. I think it's great because that would let you know anytime you get touched with a blade.
So if anybody has any experience with a shock knife, please email us and let us know if we're correct in our assumptions there. Last question that we're going to cover today is, Dear Ninja and Rob, when first starting martial arts, everyone wants to get good quick, and little thought is given to longevity. As an aging martial artist, I am most concerned with keeping my pear-shaped body injury-free, maybe minimize injuries, maximize recovery speed, so that I can continue to train meaningfully the rest of my life. I'm guessing you guys have similar concerns, even though you are much younger than me. Can you discuss what an aging martial artist should do to make BJJ/martial arts a lifetime pursuit? Best regards, Robert J. Jenga. Noah Spear, black belt. So I would recommend that don't just look at training as your everything that's beneficial about the martial arts, right? The live training is great, but it's not the only thing that makes martial arts awesome. Being able to teach, being able to mentor younger students or less experienced grapplers or fighters, like those are ways that even if you're aged or injured, you can be a use and useful to your school and your instructor and be able to give some longevity to your career as a martial artist. So it's not always, what can I throw at this person physically, right? What can I add to them with my knowledge of jiu-jitsu or my knowledge of Muay Thai or, like those kinds of things. I don't think that it's always just sparring, grappling, right? It goes back to also what Tim and I talked about earlier, being smart with when you train, who you train with, and how you train, right? There's other parts to your longevity. Getting good nights. I think the best thing that happens, I feel best when I get good sleep. That's the other thing I think is an underrated recovery thing is good sleep. And I know for a fact that Robert Herman has a terrible time sleeping. So what do you think, Tim?
Let me think. So when you're young, or you start when you're young, if you train like you're always going to be young, like maximum efficiency with minimum effort should be the goal, right? It's like the old judo saying.
Jigoro Kano.
Right. So you should apply that even when you're young. So that way, when you're old, you can apply moves without needing the strength of being young.
Right.
You know?
But we're not saying that you don't, strength is still an asset to be used.
Use as much as you have.
Right.
But you should first, one of the best things you could ever do is strength train to make your body strong.
Yeah, and he seems like he's talking to you, Robert Jenga.
Yeah. But overall, just taking care of your body. So doing martial arts recreationally will keep you in good shape. Doing it for your lifetime, if you're a martial artist, you got to be, everything kind of goes into being a martial artist.
As you sit here, do you have anything on your body that hurts?
Everything. On
my body. My hip hurts right now. My low back is bothering me.
Everything hurts, but I went to the gym this morning. I worked out. I went to the sauna for a while. Tomorrow I'm going to run before I train. So keeping your body strong and in shape is important. And I think something a lot of people, they think, well, I trained today, I worked out, but sometimes an extra workout will help speed up recovery.
Right. And like you said, the sauna or the cold plunges,
eating
the cryo.
right, avoiding drugs, some drugs. Some drugs help, some drugs hurt.
Right.
You got to find the
and
proper
I know
balance.
for me, when I'm very good with my diet, especially if I'm doing keto, I just feel there's a general sense of better well-being.
Yeah,
I train better.
Everybody knows what's bad for them,
right?
And if you avoid those, you'll feel better, and you'll be less injured, and things will be less sore. So taking care of your body helps a lot, and that goes outside of how you should train.
But also think about and I'm going to read it. Think about teaching. Teaching is a way that you could always stay connected and not have to worry as much about the injury.
Yeah, at a certain age, you're not going to be able to really roll,
purposefully or
Right, if you want to train when you're 90, you're not going to be, butting heads with a 25-year-old guy. So it's but I know I have a couple guys. I have a student that's 59. He trains pretty hard with all the young guys.
Dude, one of my students, Dom, he's gonna be 64 next week, and he's training more now than he's ever trained in his life.
My first Joe Candelo, my first judo instructor. That
guy's a legend.
61, maybe 62, but he's been coming into Bridgeport Gym and training. He trains judo, trains jujitsu, he does gi, does no gi.
Is he still sick or what?
Yeah, still
sick in a good jujitsu.
Yeah, he's good. He's strong. He's strong as shit. He goes hard. You know,
that's awesome. Like that guy was a legend when I first walked into a judo
he's a guy
school.
that always worked out, always trained,
stayed in shape. His whole life.
He didn't take breaks. Breaks kill you.
Right.
When you take a break, that's when you really get old and you'll start feeling things.
I see that a decent amount in boxing where guys like they only get ready for fights when they have a fight.
Mm-hmm.
They're not continually training.
I think it's the same thing in any sport. You see the guys in the NFL that do all the extra stuff in the off season.
Jerry Rice.
And they keep training. Yeah.
Good example.
Terrell Owens.
So I think we're going to wrap it up soon, but I think I'm going to order the Malignaggi Lobov fight.
Is that tonight?
Yeah.
Yo, Lovato and Musasi.
Yeah.
Who you got?
Musasi.
I think so too. I want Lovato to win, but
I would like Lovato to win, but I think he's just not there in his career to fight a guy that established.
Not yet. And if you look at their records, it's Musasi's like 40-6-1, and Lovato's 9-0. So it's like just that experience is a big thing. And
like we know if Lovato can get him down and get on top of him, Musasi's going to have a hard time.
Maybe, but Musasi's fought world champions before.
Yeah, and beaten them. Yeah.
He beat
Jacare,
world-class wrestlers.
Right.
Beat Jacare. He beat Chris Weidman.
No, he's definitely really like.
I think his jiu-jitsu is very underrated.
Right.
I think if Musasi gets on top of Lovato could be in trouble. So
yeah, I think there might be some things going on. I don't know. I'm not at liberty to say right now, but
might be some things going on.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see after the fight.
We'll
talk about it next week.
But no, what do you mean? What things could be going on?
I can't say. I have insider.
I mean,
knowledge.
I think things are going on too. Things are always going on. But what are you?
Yeah.
In what sense? Somebody's injured.
In particular, with this fight,
somebody's injured. The fix is in.
I don't think the fix is in, no. But I think that there might be some news coming out after the fight.
Somebody's on steroids.
Oh, I don't know.
Somebody got caught. USADA.
Bro,
come on, man, you can't.
No. This is called a cliffhanger. So they come into week 7, okay. Right?
But tell me off the air. Can you tell me?
Yeah. So again, please rate and review on iTunes. Share it. Share this with your friends if you like it and appreciate it. And if you have a question that you like answered, Tim and I will give you the straight, honest answer that we feel is right. And we will make it anonymous if you want it.
Send the questions to ninjarobpodcast@gmail.com.
Right, or go to ninjarob.com and you can hit the
And they don't have to be jiu-jitsu questions.
Could be anything.
We're well-versed in all martial arts.
Well, how about we're well-versed in life? I think I get better life advice than jiu-jitsu advice.
To who?
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening, and we will see you all again next week. Tim and I would like to thank our sound engineer and studio owner, Devin Wade, for always doing a great job with the sound, but also the beautiful facility that we get to use here at SFX Studios. We'd also like to thank Eddie Lynn, who takes and donates his time to the podcast to do all the video editing and everything you see on our social media. So really appreciate that from Eddie Lynn. And we'd also like to thank our friend Ralphie Darden, a.k.a. DJ Major Taylor, who gave us the original music that we use. So you're welcome, Tim.
And almost just as importantly as everybody else that he mentioned, we would like to thank all of our listeners that submitted questions.
This is the Ninja Rob Podcast with Marco Perazzo and Tim Carpenter, the podcast for the true martial artist.